NFL offseason is full swing. NFL Combine has started. We got AFC East today. We're going to show you how we can fix the whole division. This is Money Pop Betting. Let's go. Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Money Pot Betting Show. I am the host. I'm the CEO. I'm the president. They call me Moss Money, and we got our NFL draftees, gurus, off-season guides for this year's NFC season. We got our own professional bettor, C Sharp, and new to the show. Seen him last week. Dropped some gems last week. Ernie B is back to talk some shit with that ugly Alabama shirt on, but repping the A, as they say out here. So we did AFC West last week. Now we have AFC East this week. Let's not make them wait. Let's get right into it. We're going to start with the defending and reigning dominant champions, Buffalo Bills, going up first. And the Bills stay true to their name, in my opinion. They keep making it and keep losing it. But they have some key free agents here. They have some needs here that we've seen already coming out with rumors already. First free agent, I think, is the big one for them is Davis. Is he really number two? He shows some flashes. Is he not? We got Leonard Floyd and Michael Hyde on the back end of that defense, as well as our key free agents. And I have their draft needs as top as receiver, safety, and more important, probably interior defensive line that I was reading up, but defensive line just in general. Any of you boys got any changes to those hierarchies of free agents and needs so far?
Sharp, let it rip, unless you want me to go first on this one.
Yeah, go for
it. Honestly, Nate, I kind of agree with you here. It's just I don't know if you have those ranked in order: wide receiver, safety, defensive line. But I'd probably agree with those three. Heavily leaning towards the interior defensive line. They do have a couple edge rushers hitting the free agency. Epinesa being the most prominent out of those. Leonard Floyd is, I feel like, kind of in his mercenary era of just get the biggest money he can at a contender and keep it pushing. Safety and wide receiver is the biggest thing for me. I really like safety here for Buffalo. It's the time they turn the era. It's a big it's kind of been a big factor of their defense. Poyer and Hyde have been a big combo, well-known combo through the league for years. Couple names I wrote down were just Tyler Nubin out of Minnesota, Cam Kenshin's out of Miami. If they wanted to somehow play some games, I had I think it's Kalen Bullock from USC, but the big one was Cole Bishop out of Utah. I thought would be kind of a funny fit there, some way somehow. Other than that, wide receiver, they got Kincaid last cycle, and I thought that was awesome. I mean, I really thought that was great for Josh Allen. I also wrote down a complimentary running back. Is James Cook really an RB1 in this league? Can he handle the load? Damien Harris kind of skipped some things last year. He skipped a couple. He wasn't really what I thought he was going to be in that role. I wrote down the name Ray Davis out of Kentucky as a name to watch for Buffalo, as a guy that they could add, just maybe to add just a different kind of shade to running back, just to keep James as fresh as possible. Because I do think James Cook is capable of being a top 10 running back in this league. I just think that anybody just needs a little help. Other than that, I think Buffalo, where we're at, Milano and Trey White, I think are going to be here. Brandon Beane kind of clarified that as far as the combine interview went, his press conference went. I think they're good at corner. You said get some interior defensive line. I think Devondre Sweat would be a cool name there from Texas. I know he's going around a lot of places as a high upside kind of player. That's just where I'm at with Buffalo. I think they have a lot of cap things they need to make happen, but I think that happens over the next 14 to 16 days. Just they're going to move some money around. I don't think they're going to be big hitters in free agency, but I think the draft they're going to look to the future.
So what I want to go back with the James Cook thing, I didn't know how good he was.
James Cook he's a really good football player.
Yeah, I didn't know how good he was compared to everybody else. He was fourth in rushing, almost had 1,700 all-purpose yards. So for me, I felt like he came on strong this last season, and I think that he kind of answered that question: can he be the guy? And in my opinion,
I think he
can,
but I think adding a guy on day 3 name,
right,
just to have there to develop instead of going after guys in free agency like a Damian Harris or something like that, I think complements their offense better. You know what I mean? A guy that kind of knows his role and isn't just trying to hawk touchdowns.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think I mean, obviously a compliment is always good, but I expect him to do what he did this year, next year, again. Sharp, talk to me about Stephon Diggs. What are we going to do with Stephon Diggs? It seems like it's been the carousel for the Buffalo Bills for a couple of years. Is he going to stay? Are they going to trade him? He really fell off. If you look at some of the numbers, he came more of like I want to say maybe a little bit more of a possession. Had the huge job against KC, obviously, that we all saw. As a number one receiver, you got to come down with that. So, what do I have receiver as number one. Do you think Stephon Diggs is in a Buffalo Bills uniform come next year?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They have too many holes to worry about letting go one of their premier players. I do think Diggs is plateaued, and I don't think the personal connection between Diggs and Allen is one with which you would hope that a receiver and a quarterback that both make a lot of money and both have had success together statistically and as a team, you would hope they're just boys, right? And they're not. Like maybe they came from two different sides of the culture, I do know Diggs is very urban. Josh Allen, dairy farmer. So it could just be they're miles apart as humans. And that just shows on the field, right? Like sometimes it is what it is. Like Mahomes and Kelsey are cut from the same cloth. That's why they're boys. Tyreek Hill and Mahomes, they were coworkers. Diggs and Allen feel like coworkers. Does that make sense? I think that's a problem, big picture, but they just can't get rid of Diggs. Do I think wide receiver is the biggest need? Absolutely not. I would actually take it off a big top 3 list. Their number one need is hands down defensive tackle. Their top 3 defensive tackles, I should say 3 of their top 4 defensive tackles are all unrestricted free agents. I can pull up their 2 deep right now off the top of my head, but I know Tim Settle's a guy that not many NFL fans know, but he's a really good rotational player. He's an unrestricted free agent. They need to bring him back. Ed Oliver is definitely a household name. He's a stud. They'll have him. Daquan Jones was a starter. If they don't bring him back, I don't know what they do because Linval Joseph probably retires. Eagles fans know his name. He's pushing 35. Who knows if he's even reliable? So I would say interior defensive line is need number 1 for the Bills. I would probably re-sign Tim Settle. I don't think they could afford to allow Tim Settle to walk and Daquan Jones. So they're going to have to decide there. Sign one of those 2. Probably can't afford to sign both. They're $40 million over the cap. They could always go to the bank of Josh Allen, right? These guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, you can basically annually restructure their deal, take their base salary for the upcoming season, roll it into a bonus, add dummy years. Josh Allen will be the quarterback for the Bills for the next 10 years, right? You know that. So they could free up a lot of money by doing that. I think they have to go young. I hate to say it, but like the Bills' window's closed, right? Like we're talking big picture of the division. I don't even think this team can win the division unless the other teams.
Oh, wow. You think it's completely closed?
Yeah. For now, like obviously with Josh Allen, they'll retool.
Yeah.
You let a Gabe Davis walk. I think in round 2.
They can't play Davis, right?
Yeah, I mean, just Gabe Davis isn't reliable. He's overrated. He's more of a wide receiver 3. He's he's just not reliable. And when you got an unreliable wide receiver 1 in Diggs, you can't have an unreliable wide receiver 2 in Davis. So I think it's perfect time for them, I think they pick in the second round. What is it? Pick 60. I think you're looking at 10 to 12 wide receivers go in the first 2 rounds, maybe 12, 13 receivers. I think at pick 60, you go ahead and replace Gabe Davis. Maybe you get a guy like Keon Coleman falls to you, a guy who's kind of unreliable sometimes in his own way in college, but maybe with Josh Allen, he blossoms into an elite wide receiver. So pick 60, you probably replace Gabe Davis. I don't know what they do at defensive tackle. I've talked about the Chargers at the top of the round 2, pick 37, them liking Tavondre Sweat. Maybe the Bills snipe the Chargers and, with that late first round, maybe they go ahead and take Tavondre Sweat as that run-plugging defensive tackle, and you put him next to Ed Oliver and you form one of the best defensive tackle tandems in the league. So that's something they could do in the first round that would shore up an immediate hole. Man, I don't know. Another huge hole is corner. Like Rasul Douglas, yeah, he's good, I guess. I don't know if he's elite. And Tre'Davious White is getting old. He's coming off an injury. I don't know if Tre'Davious White's a cornerback 1. So I think this team's got to make a move at cornerback.
You don't think they cut White?
What?
You think they cut White?
No, they can't afford to. He's got 5th. So the problem with Tre'Davious White is he's $27 million in dead money with a $15 million base salary. Something tells me they probably restructure him and kick the can down the road. So you're probably looking at Rasul Douglas and Tre'Davious White as your top corners. And if they think Kaiir Elam takes a jump, maybe they don't address cornerback early in the draft, but they need a corner. They need an extra corner. Safety.
I got to say something on that, and I'll make it quick. First of all, I had something a note that I wanted to make, and the Bills' average age of free agent this year with only 1 exclusive rights free agent, which is just like a gimme back, would be Quentin Morris at tight end. He's just a block guy. He's irrelevant. It's 28.6 per Sport Track, which just shows that they really need a youth overhaul to this roster. Like they've got to get some young guys in. The only name I'd bring up at corner would be Christian Benford as they have options. I think they can make a stretch for 1 more year. But other than that, I mean, I think it's a good idea on the Bills. I mean, like he said, their window's not there. I mean, they just don't. They're in a weird influx of finances and age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree that their window's not there because I don't see anybody else being able to. Maybe the Jets. But
if Aaron Rodgers is upright, the Jets will dominate the Bills this year.
It's just that I'm not sure. Yeah, but that's the key question. Like we're banking on Rodgers being Rodgers after the Achilles.
Well, but if you're the Jets, literally all you have to do is make one little trade to get Joe Alt or Olufashinu. All you have to do, like literally, the Jets just need a tackle. They're just a tackle away. That's one player, which is easy to get in the draft. This draft has 3 of them. Like I can assure you, with the first pick the Jets have, they're going to address their biggest team need. I can't guarantee that the Bills can fix their biggest need with their first pick. And then their second need is so massive, the Jets don't have a second big need. So, like, when I'm comparing those teams, like, I would put the Jets as a 1.5 win total higher than the Bills.
No, what I'm saying is everything's based on Rodgers being right. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the case after an Achilles injury.
Oh, Rodgers, him as a player?
Yeah, like him.
Oh, I'm 100% sure Rodgers will be Rodgers. Yeah, I'm 100% sure of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Now, if you told me that defense is just going to win, I could agree with that. You know.
Oh yeah, it's going to be the best defense in the division, no doubt about it.
It might be the best defense in the league.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying. If you add a Joe Alt or now I don't think Olufashinu's kind of that guy that maybe changes the division. But like we've talked about it, if you're the Jets and you're the Chargers, you're going to swap. Like I can almost guarantee that it probably happens on draft day. But like those two teams are probably swapping. The Jets will go ahead and take Joe Alt. The Chargers will probably slide down, get an extra asset, take Brock Bowers, take him off. You know how we've already talked about this. So the Jets will probably take Joe Alt, and that's going to change the whole dynamic of the division. and the Bills are pretty much screwed. If I ran the Bills, I would. The problem with the Bills is their two worst contracts are two guys they actually can't afford to move on from. Like Von Miller's washed,
Miller. Yeah.
but they can't afford to move on from him because of their salary cap situation. And Tre'Davious White is washed, and they can't afford to move on from him. So they're in a world of hurt. Ernie already talked about it. They got to get young. They've got to get young. Yeah,
and they're $50 million over the cap too. So
yeah, they're in trouble.
Yeah, they're in bad trouble.
They're going to take a big step back.
Yeah, I could see them taking a step back. I just don't know. Yeah, like you said, it's kind of with the draft, free agency, what the Jets do to make them better, because I don't know if they have enough.
Like the Bills are not winning a playoff game next year. Like that's just not happening. That's not in the cards for them.
Right. Okay. All right. I like what we did on the Bills here. Let's see the drum roll for who's up next. Oh, look at that face. The Miami Dolphins. Man, oh man, the Miami Dolphins. I think, Sharp, you said it right on another video some back when somewhere, that this might be the biggest team that takes the biggest fall from the past year. I actually kind of I'm starting to look at this, agree with it after I kind of went back and looked more at some of the numbers. I mean, I put Tyreek up here for a reason. I don't think you can expect to win Super Bowls or even playoff games when you pay a receiver $30 million. That's going to be tough to do. Even as good as Tyreek is, they can't get over some of the pitfalls. And top of the list here is D-line for me. Tons of D linemen, maybe out the door. Starting with one of the captains, Wilkins. Help me out, sorry. Ojiba? I think that's how you pronounce that. Emmanuel Ojiba.
Emmanuel Ogba?
Ogba. Close. And then who else? There was another defensive lineman, I think, that was also.
I mean, Christian Wilkins is their number one player, and he's a free agent. And if they can't bring him back, they're in trouble.
I think
you're talking about one of the premier defensive tackles in the NFL.
I mean, they already started to try to help with the being over $50 million over the cap. They let go of Xavier Howard. I think that wasn't too long ago. But are they going to sign Tua? Tua still needs to get kind of re-signed as well. So those are my top key free agents here. Connor Williams is also a center. I think that's huge as well. But I have D-line, O-line in the trenches. You can't let those guys go in safety. Any changes to that list of hierarchy of needs or key free agents for the Miami Dolphins? All right.
I'll go to you. I'll start with the Dolphins unless you want to go. Ernie B, why don't you go again if you want?
No, gosh.
No. You get Miami because I got a manhandle.
All right, and then I'll let you have New England. Then I'll finish with the
Jets.
Let
me intro you, Sharp. How do you fix the Miami Dolphins?
Well, I'm going to be real simple. It's kind of like the Bills, man. I think this is the division of desperation, and I think the top two teams in this division are going to get flipped. I think the Jets and the Patriots are going to finish 1 and 2, and I think these two teams are going to finish 3 and 4. I could see the Bills. Josh Allen could drag them to second place. I could see that. But Miami's going to take a massive step back, and I actually think O-line's their number one need.
Okay.
I'm just in my mind, I'm thinking they find a way to do. If now Christian Wilkins walks, then obviously you could put these two up there together, to be honest. O-line, D-line. The reason I say that is because, Austin Jackson, the right tackle's decent, but then you got Armstead as their left tackle. And man, that dude took a massive step back. And you're talking about like a Jason Peters towards the end with the Eagles or a Tyron Smith with Dallas. Like, I don't think you can trust him. Like, he might not be able to finish the season. He might retire. He might want too much money for what he's worth. So, I mean, if you're talking about Tua Tagovailoa, who's not very mobile and already has issues with, has had issues with concussions, you need your left tackle. You need both tackles. So, tackle's a huge priority. They've got to find a way to figure that out. And like you said, Emmanuel Ogba and Christian Wilkins, that's a lot to lose. in terms of sack production, pass rush production. This team just has too many holes to fill it all. They got to get younger. The team's in trouble. I mean, honestly, I would say the same thing for the Bills. The only way to fix both these teams is one step back for two steps forward. You got to reset.
And let's not forget they got beat up on the defensive end with their rushers, right? Both Phillips and who was the other guy?
Chubb. Bradley Chubb's coming off an injury. You got Jalen Phillips, who is a good player, but he's had injuries in the past. So, I mean, I think they're okay in D-line in terms of that. Like, they can probably afford to let Ogba go. They're probably just going to have to. But like I said, man, you let Wilkins go. That's such a massive hole. It's so hard to find those gap shooting defensive tackles. So, I mean, man, they're in trouble.
EB, you got anything to discredit that or go against that, or you agree with his stuff here?
First thing I want to ask is, will Tyreek Hill ever be suspended in the NFL, or is he just need to be referred to as the unsuspendable? Because we have another NFL report today about something about happened with some sort of nonsense. We're not going to dive into it, but I love Tyreek Hill, the football player. I think he's one of the most exciting guys to watch in the league.
Oh, you can't say that and not drop. You can't say that and not drop no news, bro. You got to.
I mean, it's on Bleacher Report. I mean, he apparently, I don't know, somebody's leg got broken at a workout.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think I saw a picture of that.
Yeah, so he's getting, it's the yearly off-season Tyreek Hill off the field news. So
I do love his women, man.
He's a great guy, man. He's awesome. I love
he's a great guy.
He's a great guy.
He's got 8 baby moms.
He's a great guy. But so one thing I want to say about Miami is I agree with Sharp here. I mean, they're in a weird position franchise-wise. I think.
No, well, Ernie, let me ask you about that, because Sharp said this too. When you say weird, what do you mean by what do you mean they're weird? Are they just is it weird, or are they just in a bad spot?
They're in an odd position of NFL purgatory, man. I mean, they're good enough to win 8 to 10, 9 to 11 games, but I don't think they're good enough to really make a run in the playoffs. And they might be okay with that. I don't know. I mean, it's just an odd position for them to be in. The roster itself has holes that can be filled, and Hill's a great player. Tua's Tua. You know what I mean? I mean, he is who he is. They don't, I don't know. I mean, for a franchise that's in such a big market, I mean, the only thing I'm going to say is what I wrote down is they need pass rush help as far as interior wise. I think offensive line and interior pass rush help are the biggest things.
So do you assume they're letting Wilkins walk then?
No, I think they're going to do everything they can to retain Wilkins, but I think they need more. I mean, I don't think Ogba looked that good on film this year. I don't know how you felt about him, but I just don't think he looked as effective as that year where he had I think he had 15 sacks or whatever. I don't know. He didn't look as effective.
Well, remember too, I was reading up on them. They had some soft teams they played, right?
Miami
their schedule was soft in terms of I think Chubb, most of Chubb's sacks came from against I don't know, I forget Washington or just bad offensive line. They played well against their matchups.
I wrote down 2 names, and they were 2 homer names, and it was 2 Duke Blue Devils, but in football. So this is, I mean, I can't imagine I could say this now, but Dwayne Carter, defensive line, Graham Barton, offensive line. And that's just 2 guys that I thought that maybe they could, I think they have picked 21.
I'm not sure.
That would be very early for Graham Barton.
No. I'm not. I'm talking about moving backwards for Barton or Dwayne Carter. I think he's a date.
Yeah, that would be.
Day 2 name. But I'm talking about guys that could fill in because they don't have as much to give. And I just think that they could fill some needs with. Those are just 2 names that I think they could fill holes with a good dart throw. It's a solid dart throw. A lot of these teams are.
I like Barton if you're letting Connor Williams go. That would be a tough rent. They're in a weird spot for Barton.
I agree. And Barton's getting a lot of hype from some teams. And Nate, just so you know, Barton is a player that is somebody that most probably media groups are not talking about, but he's
not going 21
offensive line, but he's not a day 1 guy, but he's a guy that we could potentially see have a career in the league.
Well, yeah, he's going to be a good player, but I'm saying where would you slot him with where their draft is?
I would say the Dolphins would have to move back. I would say they would move back and try to get as much capital as they could. Move back to the second round from the first round and try to get as much as they could, and then just try to focus on getting either a just an impact player or whatever, wherever they could slot themselves in the second round.
So they're at 21, and at 21,
which is a weird pick
if
for
Williams
a
walks,
team that's kind of.
I mean Wilkins. I'm sorry, not Williams. If
Wilkins won't walk, they will pay Wilkins.
I don't think he'll walk. I don't think you just. I just don't think.
I don't know about that, guys. I wouldn't say that. They could let Wilkins walk. Like 21. 21's that perfect draft slot where you replace Wilkins almost in this draft. Like you could take like 20, you'd be rolling the dice, maybe a small trade up. If you're willing to do a small trade up, you could definitely get Newton or Murphy. Definitely.
If Murphy's there, like, do you think
Newton or Murphy are not going to go top 13, so you can like take that off. Neither one of those guys are going to go top 13. That's like out of their range. Just how they just don't have that. They don't have the foot speed with violent hands. Newton has the violent hands. Murphy has the foot speed. Neither one of them combined both. You need to combine both to go like where Jalen Carter did. So they're not going to do that. So they're not top 12 picks. So I think at 21, you actually are looking at a Newton or a Murphy. So if you were willing to like, hey, I don't want to go pay $30 million for Christian Wilkins because it'll be $29 million a year. You could definitely replace him with a Newton.
Like what's Wilkins' his salary? Like what would a new contract with Wilkins look like?
5 years, $140 million.
Sharp, besides Armstead, who can they kick the can on to free up some money?
They're not kicking the can on Armstead.
No. I'm talking about besides. I'm just saying. I'm talking about a player that has a long contract. I mean, Tyreek Hill would be the best example. But who do they have that they could kick the can on and free up some money?
Well, they just did Howard, right? They just let Howard go, right?
No, Howard.
Yeah, they could. So when you kick the can, okay, so kick the can. Let's talk about kick the can. You only kick the can with players who are going to be here for 4+ years. You don't kick the can with someone who, unless it's like an immediate cap hell, like I'm going to kick the can and then cut them. Kicking the can, a restructure is players. You only restructure foundational pieces, meaning essentially you're only restructuring a top 5 player on your roster. So if you look at Miami, contracts that they could pull money from, it would be Tyreek Hill, number 1, Jalen Ramsey, number 2. I would have to look. I would think that they could probably do Robert Hunt. They could give him a massive contract and pull a bunch of money out of him, their offensive guard. And then you'd be looking at Tua Tagovailoa, giving him a massive deal and dumping all the money on year 2 and maybe lowering him to like vet minimum year 1. Those would be your 4 deals where you could get cap compliant like instantly.
Okay. I mean, I know I keep calling it Xavier, but it's Xavier Howard. I know that what was it? Almost 18 million they freed up by letting him go. I think I wrote that.
That's post June 1. So they don't get that freedom until June 2nd.
And he's a step slow, right? So he's not, that was smart to do that. Now, 21's another interesting spot for corner. Like if they can't get defensive tackle, like that's kind of it's an and or. If you sign Wilkins and you don't need that defensive tackle, then like a Nate Wiggins falls to you, and then you replace Xavier Howard with a Nate Wiggins, and you put Nate Wiggins with Jalen Ramsey. So I do think the Dolphins are in a good spot at pick 21 to either replace defensive tackle or corner. You're not going to replace offensive tackle at 21 unless a guy like Tyler Guyton or a Mims. Like you could take a swing on a guy that's not ready now and just hope on a projection. That's a risky thing to do on offensive tackle. They're not going to be able to get one of the top 2 tackles that are like no-brainers. But they could probably get one of the top 2 defensive tackles that are no-brainers.
Okay.
That's where I would go. Honestly, if I were running the Miami, I'd be looking at Jerzon Newton would be my first pick. And if I've got to do a small trade up, if there's any player in this draft that kind of plays like Christian Wilkins, it's Jerzon Newton.
Sharp, do you know what name he changed his name to for the
Illinois.
draft?
Huh?
What did he change his name to?
Who?
Jerzon Newton. He's going by something else for.
You Google it. I don't know. You don't. I don't. You can Google.
I can't remember. I just know he changed his name. Just for anybody that would want to look it up, he changed. Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure he's going, but he did the same thing that the Penn State defensive lineman did.
Yeah, I don't get why. He did that.
I'm pretty sure his government name's Jerzon Newton. So until he changes it legally, like you're talking about. If you change it legally, I'll announce. But yeah, like his legal name's Jerzon Newton, so that's what I'll go by.
Yeah, I second that, Sharp. We're not doing fake names.
The Penn State kid legally changed his name a year into the draft, a year into the league. So it was like, okay, we'll go by what you want.
We're not doing no fake names just for clout.
I don't think it's a fake name. I think it was like I can't remember what it was.
Funny.
It's just he changed his. It's something I don't know. I could be wrong.
That is hilarious. You know, change your name. Anything else on the Miami Dolphins? I do agree with you, Sharp. Here, I do think they take a step back, and like you and Ernie, like you said, you know, they might be good enough right there in that middle spot. They might be good enough to go 9-8, maybe even 10-7. But once it gets cold, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for the Miami Dolphins.
And let's not forget one last thing, Eagles fans. You know this, like whether it was a family thing or Vic didn't really want to go down there in the first place because he wanted to be with the Eagles, and then how it fell out with Jonathan Gannon, and then he wanted to be with Sean Payton, but he didn't like the direction of the Broncos, so he didn't take it. Like, I don't know how Vic Fangio ended up in Miami, but obviously he didn't like Miami. But remember, he left Miami, and he's now the Eagles defensive coordinator. So not only are the Dolphins in cap hell, but they also are about to lose a top 5 defensive coordinator in the National Football League, and they did not replace that with an adequate defensive coordinator. So, I mean, this team is about to circle the drains. Remember the Minnesota Vikings where it was like, wow, they won 13 games, and then this year it was like, dang, they were close games, but they sucked. That's going to be Miami this year.
What are you going with the betting part in a super early Sharp? What do you think their over and under is?
I would put it at 8.5.
8.5.
If it's 9.5, like the Saints were last year, we know where Daddy's going to be.
I hear that.
No, I like that.
I'm never calling you Daddy.
I like 8.5. 8.5 is a good number. No, that really is a good number.
I was saying Daddy Warbucks. Like, that's where my big bet will be.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I was thinking a little bit higher. I thought maybe 9.5, but 8.5 seems maybe close. It might open at 9.5 and get bet down immediately.
I'm about to say, Nate, if they open at 9.5, that's ridiculous. Like that would be. That's
what was the record last year? And we know
they won 11 games. I thought
11 games.
Yeah, 11-6.
11-6.
And Tua played every game, right?
He did.
Hey, I do want to say real quick. We mentioned they are only $29 million over the cap. The cap is actually $255.4 million. So for everyone out there, the dogs Taylor Swift. Well, guess what? The NFL at the end of the year was like, guys, we made so much money this year, everyone gets more. So the salary cap went up because of Taylor Swift. Don't forget that.
I think they all got like extra $20 million, right?
I think it was 15. I can't remember, but yeah, it went up another 15.4 after it was already going up a good amount. So like it's crazy high.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
It went up the highest single season it has in a long, long time, and it's already been zooming. So, I mean, Taylor Swift. What Taylor Swift is doing is bringing the casual female into football, which is huge. Like females spend money, and money drives the market, right? So that bring females into football. I'm fine with it.
It's funny. I saw a video. I think I guess Travis was at a Swift concert, and the fans have Travis Kelce jerseys on at a Taylor Swift concert.
That's hilarious.
Grown men too, by the way. I was like, "What the fuck is this? This is crazy." All right, let's go to number 3. What we got here? Oh, there he is. So I'm gonna say this because me and Sharp had a nice little outing back and forth about this man on the screen right here. And Sharp gave him the gold jacket before he even stepped on the NFL. and it's looking like it's already coming true. When I went back and looked at this man's numbers, it is filthy what this man is doing at cornerback. Filthy. And if they're good next year, dark horse right now, Garner for Defensive Player of the Year. It is simply ridiculous. Receivers only averaged 2 receptions and 17 yards by the numbers. He is by far the easiest, the best corner in the league. And it's not even close. Like there used to be 1, 2, 1A, 1B. Like it's not even close. Like nobody's even close to him. Simply filthy in terms of playing the cornerback position. He gets the nod as my star on the screen today. And I was wrong in that year. What were we in year 2 for him or year 3?
Yeah, he's coming into year 3, so he should have one more little jump in him, and then he'll probably plateau. So he should be a little better than he was last year, which is scary.
Yeah, which is scary. Really, really scary. But looking at the needs here, I think Sharp kind of alluded to it already. We talked about it. Offensive line, huge need for the Jets right now. Key free agents, Brown is one, and I forget that guy's first name.
Laken Tomlinson from Duke University.
Yeah,
another key. Now I think he was a guard. I think it was. Was he a guard?
Yeah, Laken's an interior offensive. He's played almost every position in the NFL, but yeah, right. he's an interior offensive lineman.
So those are the key free agents for the Jets. Ernie, I didn't hear you talk too much, right? Last round with the Jets. How do you fix the Jets?
Well, first off, I got to tell you that you're wrong about the best corner in football. The best corner in football is not Sauce Gardner. The best corner in football is Pat Surtain, and it's not even close. I've been saying this for a long time. He is hands down the best corner in football. It's teach tape, baby. Pat Surtain is where it's at. I don't care what team he's on. That's the best corner in football. I promise you. Sauce Gardner is right up there. I mean, I would never. I'm not knocking Sauce at all. I love him, but the scheme that he's in doesn't allow him the freedom to play like Pat does. So we'll get off that subject. The Jets. I got the name I wrote down, and Sharp mentioned him earlier was Olu Fashanu. Just get Rodgers Fashanu. Just give him the tackle. I mean, Joe Alt going up to get Joe Alt. I like it. Joe Alt's going to be it's a big move, but where they're at franchise wise, I mean they're losing some things here and there. I mean, going up to get Joe Alt, I hear you. But Fashanu's right there. He's going to be there. Just sit pat, take the tackle, and keep it pushing. Go pick up a guy like our guy Malachi Corley. I think he would fit the offense, help him out a little bit, give him a little freedom play to help out Rodgers. I mean, another name I wrote. I mean, safety is a big thing that I want to talk about with the Jets. So they do need a safety. Solid needs a safety to help that defense. I don't know how they're going to address it, but they're going to need a safety. Fashanu, that's my name for the Jets. It's not Joe Alt, it's Fashanu for me. I think you sit put, you take the tackle. You keep it pushing. You get a guy like Malachi Corley. Maybe you get a guy like Cole Bishop out of Utah at safety. I don't know how they do it, but I mean, the Jets can really be. I agree with you. They could be one of the best defenses in football. They could be the best defense in football. I mean, they have a chance to be a really sneaky team. And I think Sharp's right. I think the Jets have a chance to kind of shake up the AFC East.
Where's he going to play? Is he left or right tackle? Left.
Fashanu?
Yeah, Fashanu.
Maybe left for them.
Be left?
Yeah.
And who's on the other end? Who's the right tackle?
They need to re-sign Dwayne Brown.
I'm about to say they have to sign Brown. They have to re-sign Brown.
They got to re-sign Dwayne Brown. You cannot.
Yeah,
you cannot.
The money for Brown is irrelevant at this point. I mean, the amount of money he's getting is irrelevant. I mean, it's nothing.
He was adequate. He was adequate at right tackle. He wasn't terrible. The problem was
left tackle. It'd be like Donovan Smith was for the Chiefs. I mean, you give him a contract probably less than Smith was. Smith is a little bit younger, but I mean, it's a mercenary tackle kind of deal.
And they could go. I mean, obviously, like a lot of people, I like Elijah Vera Tucker. So I mean, if he just stays there.
Oh, AVT's sweet. Yeah, I'm a fan of AVT. I was wrong coming out of college with him. I think me and Sharp argued over this years ago. But AVT is a guy that he's proven me wrong. I mean, he's a good football player. I mean, they have guys, man. They just need to fill holes here and there, and they just kind of have to do it while the Rodgers window's open. They don't really have time to kind of pitter patter. And I agree with the alt move up, but at the same time, I think they have more holes than is being talked about. And they just need to just sit pat, take Fashanu, get a guy like Corley, figure out the safety position, maybe sign a guy that I want for the Eagles like Jordan Fuller. But I mean, the Jets can make some things happen.
Sharp, I'll go to you offensively. I have receiver up there. You agree with it, or you think, like Ernie's saying, safety should be higher than receiver? I didn't have safety up there.
Well, I think receiver safety is kind of equal, but it's up there. They're pitter pat.
So I do think safety would be a bigger need, just because when you're looking at their two deep, they have massive issues at safety, right? You got Chuck Clark, you've got Jordan Whitehead. I believe Jordan Whitehead's an unrestricted free agent. You've got Ashton Davis behind that. You've got Tony Adams. They really don't have a whole lot at safety. Chuck's a veteran. He's almost past his prime, to be honest with you. So I actually agree with that. They need a playmaking safety. That's about their only hole on defense. I like everything else they got going on defense. Remember that they kind of stashed old man from Iowa State. They kind of just stashed him as a pass rusher so they can let Shaq Lawson go, save a bunch of money. Carl Lawson, let a bunch of money go.
Carl Lawson was a failed deal, though. That was kind of once Saleh came in, he was screwed from the day that they drafted Jermaine Johnson. I mean, that was inevitable. I did want to say something real quick. The only safeties they do have under contract right now is Tony Adams and Jarek Converse Bernard, who
right.
I'm not familiar with.
That's what I'm saying. The top two guys, Chuck Clark and Whitehead, are basically free agents. So it's hard to imagine letting both those guys walk and going into the draft with two major holes. So I would put safety up there as a major need. If you're going to take tight end and group it with wide receiver, say pass catchers, they need a major upgrade at pass catchers.
Yeah,
that's maybe it's tight end. Maybe you go ahead and get the kid Texas in the day 2, maybe that round 3 pick. I know the Jets don't have a round 2 pick, so I do see.
Who are you talking about, Mitchell?
Huh?
No, Jatavion Sanders, I believe.
Correct.
Oh,
JT Sanders.
Okay.
Yes. Maybe a Cade Stover falls to them later in the draft, but they need a tight end. Their tight ends are really bad. And outside of Garrett Wilson, their receivers stink. So, they need an upgrade at wide receiver 2, and they need a major upgrade at tight end. So if you group those together, Rodgers needs more help. But again, that's something you got to get early in the draft, in my opinion. We've seen it time and time again. You can go day 2 shopping for wide receiver and tight end and get immediate impact guys. So they're okay there. I just disagree at tackle. I'm not a guy where I think Olu Fashanu's plug and play. I think he's plug and play and be okay. I don't think he's plug and play and be dominant. I think Joe Alt, as a rookie, is a top 10 offensive tackle in the National Football League. So to me, there's just a gap in player. We've talked about this. I just think Joe Alt's that perfect. Olu Fashanu's got the name because he was Caleb. Remember, if you're looking at why Olu Fashanu was ranked so high and he's got great traits. But he's got the same level traits as an Amari. He's got the same level traits as a Mims. He's got the same level traits as a Guyton. He's not any more physically gifted than those guys. The reason he's ranked higher is honestly because he was Caleb Williams' tackle in high school. And that just came with notoriety. Kind of like Kyle McCord got Marvin Harrison Jr. Harrison Jr. was so good in high school that it made Kyle McCord be a 5-star quarterback. Well, that happened to Olu Fashanu. Caleb Williams was so good in high school as a quarterback that people just saw this 6'6" dude standing around doing nothing. They were like, oh, man, this guy's going to be good. And I didn't see much from him at Penn State. He had flashes of being good, but he didn't have flashes of dominance. Where Joe Alt, man, that dude was a tight end. That dude came to remember, and go look at some of the previous career arcs of some of the most elite offensive tackles in the NFL. They were tight ends. And then they just added 100 pounds in their early 20s. They position switch in college, slowly add weight. 3 years later, he's added 70 pounds. Dude, he's going to add another 30 pounds. And when that dude's 320 pounds, you're looking at Joe Thomas. So, I mean, Joe Alt is like a future I don't want to say Hall of Famer, but you're looking at a future All-Pro, and I can't say that for Olu Fashanu.
Can I say one thing, Nate, before we drop this?
Yeah.
I just want to ask one question, Sharp. You're more tied into the Big Ten than I am. Who is, and I don't want to get too deep into this. I don't want to go in a rabbit hole, but who is Fashanu the person, as far as you know?
Oh, great person.
Work ethic as a kid. I mean, he wants to be great. Is there a big drive? I mean, you know, coming from a kid that has had so much notoriety growing up early, does he have that drive, or is it kind of I know who I am?
Yeah.
Or
your just difference is Joe Alt's dad, Joe Alt's family was very successful. I mean, Joe Alt's a pedigree dude. Like dad was a 10-year player in the NFL. Like Joe Alt was born to be an offensive tackle in the NFL.
Yeah.
Olu Fashanu is a guy that you look at in shorts and a t-shirt and you're like, man, if I could get everything out of him. Like if you told me Olu Fashanu fell to Jeff Stoutland and got to sit behind Lane Johnson for 2 years, and then in 3 years, would he be maybe the best right tackle in football? Yes. But if you're talking about you need to be the blindside protector of Aaron Rodgers on a Super Bowl contender year one, excuse my language, kiss my ass. Olu Fashanu is going to get his ass handed to him. I'm telling you right now. And Joe Alt will be the best left tackle in that division year one.
Look, I've seen Joe Alt. I'm a Southeast guy, so I just wanted a little.
To me, it's crazy that you don't think he's worth going up for. To me, Joe Alt's the third best player in the draft, hands down.
I love Alt. It's just I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but the Fashanu with Rodgers there, man. I just think I don't know. I think he can incite a little bit something out of a tackle.
I actually think Talisi Fuaga is a better fit than Olu Fashanu for the Jets.
I like that take too. I like that as a counter argument.
I like when we get deep and talking about the big fellas up front. That's what I like.
That's what it's all about, man.
Give the big fellas up front some love. That's what I like to hear.
Amen.
They need some love, man. The trenches need some love, bro.
Yeah, man.
I
love me some offensive tackles
sometimes.
All right, let's take it home with maybe the worst team with the most money in the NFL. It is going to be, what are we talking about? How long has it been? Over 20, no, more than that, maybe 20, 25 years where there's no Belichick or no Brady in the NFL? It's got to be ridiculous. I have quarterback, everything quarterback. Anybody disagree with that?
My man put everything. That's great.
Everything. They need everything. But they got a ton of money though. That's the cool thing.
They do.
Mate,
they have a ton of money from what I'm seeing.
Let me just tell you something.
Yeah.
And look, I got nothing but respect for Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and what they did in their dominance of what they did.
Okay.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, I think Gerard Mayo's got some potential. But first off, your key free agents are wrong. Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne, they can fucking they're not worth anything. It's Kyle Duggar and Mike Longley.
They were top salaries that I saw.
It's Mike Onwenu and Kyle Duggar, and they're both going to be back. It's Elliot Wolf is now running the front office for the Patriots. For the very first time ever, Patriots fans got to have a Howie Roseman-like press conference here at the Combine, where they got to have a guy that actually said some things and actually was honest about what the team's needs were. And it wasn't just the Bill Belichick ruse and so on and so forth. This team, man, I mean, they need so much. They need so much. I think Drake May is their best case
scenario. Everything.
I really do. I think Drake May is their best case scenario. I think if Drake May lands in New England,
that's not happening.
That's
not happening.
They're not getting past. He's not getting past Washington, bro.
I don't think it's happening. I wouldn't put any money on it. I mean, there's a lot of, and I'm not putting my values on this, but I'm just saying there's a lot of mocks out right now that are having Daniels ahead of May. I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I think
that's not.
It's Williams, May. It's not even close. I mean, they're there, and then there's the rest. But New England, they do have something going for them. They have a couple. They didn't do too bad on the draft last year. Late, Belichick had his classic write-off of Pop Douglas. Mario Douglas is a slot receiver that they got in, I think, the 5th or 6th round that has a little bit of value. Antonio Maffei was a guy that I kind of wanted Jeff Stoutland to get some hands on. I think they got him in the 5th. City Sal started 13 games for the team last year. I mean, they have some things, but they need everything, Nate. I mean, that's what it is. They need everything. I wrote down QB, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 1.
I actually almost did QB, but then when I looked at the list, I was like, all right, they needed fucking everything.
They do.
Everything.
I mean, they have guys in place that are there, but I think they can move off of. I think they can move off of J.C. Jackson, if I'm correct, and get over 100 mil, which I believe would be the most in the NFL, which would surpass Washington. But that would be the only thing. My notes on New England are they need freaking everything. But I will say, if we could bet on this, I would say that Onwenu and Duggar are lining up for the New England Patriots week 1, 2024. They're not. I don't see them playing for other teams. If I'm wrong with that, I am. But I see New England spending the money on bringing Onwenu and Duggar back as their top 2 free agents internally.
Okay.
So
Sharp. I think this is a good spot here for you to do your thing as a GM/owner. You got almost a blank roster with a lot of money. Tell me how I fixed the New England Patriots.
Trade it all for Justin.
Yeah, I agree with him on Mike and Nwenu. You got Trent Brown. Both your tackles are up, right? You got to make a decision. I've said this time and time again. You can't go into a draft process with both your tackles as a need. Like, you're just screwed. So they've got to make a decision at left tackle or right tackle. One will be a stopgap. I do get that. The right tackle, to me, is a decent right tackle. If you wanted to break him off some money, you go ahead and do that. I mean, the Patriots they're $78 million under the cap. They got a ton of money. So I would re-sign those 2 guys. I agree with him. I kind of agree with Hunter. I would, you got Hunter Henry, you got Mike Gesicki. You got to make a decision. I wouldn't let both those guys walk. I would retain one of those guys for a quarterback, the quarterback you have.
Yeah, I was going to go Henry there. I think Gesicki fell off there.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Mike Gesicki guy. Detached tight end. I need more. I need more, basically. Hunter Henry's a reliable tight end. He can do a little bit of everything. He's a guy 3-down tight end if you need him to be. I think he's a good player. I think he's under a contract. So I would probably pay those 3 guys. You could let Trent Brown walk. The interesting thing, and this is where I kind of wanted to pass it back to Ernie B, and I will kind of come back and finish off what I think, because you on the chat know how I feel, Nate. I don't think the New England Patriots are in a position to pick a 3. And I don't think the New England Patriots are in a position to take a quarterback, period. So
all right.
I'm not drafting Jaden Daniels at number 3. I wouldn't even, if my front office execs told me, if I were the owner and they kept coming to me and they were like, hey, we're taking Daniels, I'd be like, come back with another player's name, because that's not happening.
I can almost, and this is just based on some information I've heard, I can almost confirm that Sharp's right this early. New England will not be taking a quarterback at 3 if his name is not Caleb Williams or Drake May. Jaden Daniels is not an option. They're evaluating every single option at quarterback. And I mean every single option at quarterback.
Who would come up? Would they take Harrison or would they trade out?
I would take Joe. It would be a trade out, but if it came down to the fact that a deal couldn't get done, I would not be surprised if Marvin Harrison Jr. lines up as a New England Patriot.
Oh, they would be able to get a deal done.
That's kind of my thing, though. Is like the deal would get done. Like, I mean, this is a thing where New England has more leverage than a lot of teams right now in the NFL as far as where they're at in the draft.
I think they control the draft.
they have everything in place. I mean, where the Commanders are, everyone's just basically looking at them saying, "Are you going to be the Commanders? You're going to get it right this time," and they're going to get it right this time. Okay. The Bears are going to get it right this time. They're going to trade Fields. It's going to happen in the next 13 to 15 days. It's guaranteed.
Right. The question at the 1 and 2 becomes who picks 1, who picks 2. I think the very, very realistic chance the Bears do a swap with Washington, get extra assets from Washington. Washington overpays for the hometown kid. And then the Bears take May, who's got a bigger arm, who can drive it in the wind.
Yes.
Now, that could be like, I still think Williams goes 1, but I could see a scenario where Washington actually picks first. Go ahead.
I agree, but coming back to New England, I would say that the question would be is who lines up at quarterback for week 1? And I can't tell you right now, Nate. I can't tell you. I don't know who's going to – I don't know. But they have the position. They have the power right now. It's not – it's Sharp mentioned something earlier, and I'm surprised we didn't brought this up on the podcast. But just so people know, Justin Fields is more valuable than Jade Daniels in the long-term sense. But as of right now, in draft sense, he's cheaper because of where Daniels is going to go in the draft. It's all relative, okay? Fields, to a lot of teams, is seen as a good asset, but he's only going to go for what he's going to go for. So you have to think about what teams are going to pivot and move the way, accordingly. Because it's all a reaction. It's all a domino effect. Like Sharp just said, 1 and 2 could swap. Ryan Poles said it today. He said he was asked about negotiations regarding pick number 1, and he did not deny any sort of because he has to leave that door open.
I think what it comes down to is we know what would happen if they're gonna come off 3. We just know, like, just spin it 4. Like, if we're going off 3, there's only 3 teams that can afford to come up to 3, right? The Steelers can't afford it. They don't have the ammunition. No. They don't have, like, the player and the ammunition. No. So there's a couple teams that obviously Atlanta's like, hey, Atlanta would jump for joy. Like, they want Daniels. Like, they've made it clear they want Daniels. They've made it clear, from what I'm told, they've actually made it clear that they want Daniels over Fields. And everyone knows.
Really? I thought I just read today that they were in talks about Fields today.
Well, they are. But so here's what's going on right now. You've got Atlanta figuring out how much it's going to cost to go get Daniels versus how much it's going to cost to go get Fields. They're going to have both those answers. The same thing can be said for Vegas. Vegas is going to know exactly how much it costs to acquire Fields. Vegas is going to know exactly how much it requires to go get Daniels. The third team is the dark horse, and I kind of mentioned it with when I said Justin Jefferson's available, is Minnesota. They are the one team that can get the player and the first-round pick, with that player being a super player. So if there is one team that's like, maybe New England could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Maybe they can slide back and still get a McCarthy or a Nix, and they get Jefferson. They've got the contract to extend him. So I think Minnesota is definitely a team that could get to number 3.
I've heard, just so you know, it would be Jefferson. The target, I believe the Vikings have pick 11. So it would be 11. I think it's 11 plus. It's 11 for 3 plus Jefferson, and I believe it's a 2 and a future 3 was what was projected as far as the value chart goes.
Yeah, I don't think it would be a future 2 and a 3, but
I said a regular 2 and a future 3. But what I'm getting at is
that seems like way too much.
I heard.
Yeah, that's too much.
What I'm getting at is I heard that Minnesota. I mean, they're not. Sharp is right. They're not messing around right now, man. I mean that franchise is ready to take a pivot into kind of the way Seattle did post Russell Wilson. I mean, they're ready for everything, and if that requires moving off of Jefferson, they will do it. That's not fake news. That's not smoke. I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. That's real. And when it comes to New England and Minnesota, that's real too. It's real. Minnesota and New England, they whatever it is. I mean, this is the combine. Everybody's talking, everybody's chatting, but that I can double down on that and say that has happened.
Where does Cousins go?
What's that?
Where does Cousins go?
In this scenario where I'm talking about, where they trade Jefferson.
Yeah, because what you're talking about, they're a complete rehaul, right? I mean, what they're kind of.
I would think then New England signs Cousins.
Yeah.
You think they sign? So no, is Cousins a free agent?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
In this scenario, Minnesota would be hitting the reset button. You trade Jefferson, Kirk Cousins is not signing
button, for sure.
So you trade Jefferson, you're not signing Cousins, and then Cousins would hit the free agent market, and then in New England would now have Jefferson. They would probably draft a young guy like Nix that they can groom, and they would sign Cousins to a 1-year deal to compete.
I've seen
with Jefferson.
I've seen Penix in the 2 regarded to that situation.
However that works out, I was just throwing
the name out.
I don't even think Minnesota's the favorite. Like if we're talking
no, which is all hypothetical. I'm just saying.
Let's get it back to New England. So I don't think New England picks at 3 is essentially what this is coming down to.
No, they have so much power though, and when you get back to controlling the draft, I mean, like Nate said, he said they need everything, and they do. They need a QB, and they need everything else, and they're just in a position. They're in a complete franchise overhaul.
Yeah.
But Sharp mentioned something, and I'm just curious, and I want to get this out of the two of you before we go one by one. What do you guys think what's their win total at this year? Just up in the air right now. It's way too early. Just anything can happen with this franchise. Yeah. How relevant do the Patriots stay in their first year of actual, rebuild? Like they can't deny it. This isn't a retool.
I don't think you could post a win total for them. I don't think you could post a win total for them right now.
Yeah, it would be too low.
There's the variance is just too much of a variance. Like I couldn't. Like my window right now would be honestly like 3. My window right now would be 3.5 to 9.5, and Vegas can't.
But that's what I wanted.
Vegas can't set a bet. Vegas can't set a bet with 6 win total variance.
No. But that's what I wanted to talk about is how unique of a position they're in.
I don't think that's very unique. I think the Bears are in that same position where their win total could switch.
For New England's history, they've never been in this situation before. Well, they haven't been in.
The New England Patriots before Robert Kraft bought them was an absolute dumpster fire.
Yeah, they were trash.
So you're just too young to remember that.
No, they were trash. I remember them.
They were
like 96 Super Bowl, didn't they lose to
I think they went 25 years with 1 playoff win.
Yeah,
weren't they in the 96 Super Bowl against the Cowboys?
What? Is that
wasn't that the Bills?
Who was before Bledsoe?
No, that was the Bills. Jim Kelly dominated. No, that was the Bills. The Bills had that division on lockdown.
Yeah, the Bills had the 4-year run. Year they beat the Raiders like 56-3 or whatever, and then lost in the Super Bowl.
And then after that, and then you had the Vinny Testaverde Jets, which was pretty good.
Which is hilarious.
They were okay for a little bit.
Testaverde.
Yeah, no, right before Robert Kraft came on and they signed Drew Bledsoe, New England was trash. Like they were bottom of the barrel in the AFC. Like they were really bad.
Drew Bledsoe. Yeah, I don't even know this. I'm looking at names. I just remember Drew Bledsoe because that was early 90s.
Y'all remember y'all remember
Hugh Millen?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the only notable name was
he was a backup quarterback for the Patriots back in like 2001.
88 was Doug Flutie. I forgot Flutie.
Yeah, he dipped his toes. Flutie was Jeff Garcia before Jeff Garcia.
Yeah.
Just dipped his toes in every franchise he could.
Yeah. So, all right. I like it. Let me bring this down here.
But I think this is a great team to finish with, man. I think New England, I think there's so much, New England controls so much of this draft and no one's really talking about it. I think everyone's just pegging Jaden Daniels there. And when I look at Jaden Daniels, and let me just talk about the prospect as Jaden Daniels, right? You're talking about a 6'4", 200, let's just call him 200 pounds. He's probably 200 pounds. let's call 6'3", 200 pounds with an okay arm. Does that sound like someone who can drive the ball in the AFC East weather? Just say that out loud. Like average arm, kind of lean, kind of tall, kind of lanky, definitely likes to run around and get popped. Does that, just say that out loud. Does that sound like an NFC South quarterback or does that sound like an AFC East quarterback? Because that does not sound like an AFC East quarterback to me. So I just cannot see New England drafting Jaden Daniels. He's not a scheme fit. He's not a team fit. He fits Vegas. He fits Atlanta. He fits Minnesota. Get him indoors. Get him warm weather. Get him on a track star team. Get him out of New England. He's not going to New England. If he goes to New England, we've talked about it. Circumstances make or break an NFL career, especially for a quarterback. If Jaden Daniels gets drafted by New England, he's a dead duck.
If Jaden Daniels gets drafted by New England, the New England Patriots are dead.
Agreed, and so is he.
It's done. They're done. I mean, they'd be crap to be senile at that point.
Agreed.
It's over.
It's over.
So I just think that's the easy approach. Everyone that's not doing a deep dive is just mock drafting Daniels, and I think that's why we're a little different here. We actually don't think New England should be picking at 3 at all. So that's where we're at, as a group.
I think also New England controls the draft could be something that we could use as a nice little tidbit here. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are saying that, and that's something that needs to be said. I mean, this is the combine week. This is when news breaks. This is when things pop out. I mean, ESPN's not talking about it. They always talk about it, when it comes down to it. But I mean, I think we're right here. The New England Patriots have a position in the draft that is oddly unique that needs to be more talked about.
I agree. I agree with everything you guys said. Great breakdown of AFC East. I think we left last week with the AFC East being desperate. Looking at what we got left, I guess we'll stay with the AFC side. We got the South and the North. Which one do you guys want to do for next week?
Ernie B, why don't you pick for us?
I think this week is all about the North, baby. Let's predict some stuff. Let's talk Steelers. Let's talk Ravens. Let's get into it. Let's talk Bengals. You know what I mean? I mean, that division's got so much news this week. I mean, Matabuki, T. Higgins. We got to talk it, man.
I like it. So I was going to ask you guys, will you guys have a word? But I think I came up with it already. And I think the AFC North is underachievers.
What'd you say?
AFC
underachievers.
East.
No. The East, we just did the East. They're desperate.
Yeah, we're talking about the North. Oh, the North.
The North, I think underachievers.
Yeah.
They all look good, all look shiny, all look good, but they just don't. Nothing clicks. Or something always goes wrong.
My statement is window shopping. I think they're just a bunch of window shoppers, man. I think they look good from the outside in.
Yeah, they look
good. Deep dive in them and see what they're really about.
Yeah, they look good. They got a lot of good players, right? Generation talent type players.
Bunch of fancy toys, bunch of rich history.
Yeah. But that old Camry or Honda gets you across the goddamn finish line.
She got $250,000 on her, but she's pushing.
Yeah, that American Ford tough.
It does always feel like a division where it always has a high floor. It might not always have a high ceiling. It might not always have a really good team. This year it did. It has lately with the Bengals, with Burrow. Obviously, Lamar and the Ravens have had some runs recently. But it just always feels like now that the Browns are actually not a dumpster fire, it kind of feels like the division as a whole has a high floor, right? Like there's no truly epic bad team. Like the Steelers, despite not having a quarterback, always stay afloat. The Ravens are dangerous. The Bengals are dangerous, and the Browns are dangerous. So I think this division is really hard to predict, and anything could happen. To me, this feels like a blender. This division is always a blender. Hit play, hit 20 seconds, and see who rises to the top.
I like it.
I'm all about it.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining in. Make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe button if you want to do more of these off-season breakdowns.
Retirement for Nick Saban. It's all about Nick Saban.
Put that shit down.
All for Nick Saban.
Yeah, well, we thank you for Caleb Downs.
Next week, new shirt, and it might be Ohio State. We don't know. I might shout out Sharp next week.
Ohio State, OSU, baby.
I know it won't be the Tar Heels.
No, God, no. I will never wear that. That's not happening. It will not.
That's EB, Ernie B. That's Sharp. I'm Moss Money. This is Money Pond Betting. See you guys next week.